Look closely at the dead channels of the midnight mangroves, a shifting, pitch-black swamp where the water is heavily choked with toxic sulfur, lethal salt loads, and zero oxygen. This is a biological dead end. Any ordinary plant dropped into this black water would have its roots completely melted within hours. But to dominate this liquid wasteland, a highly classified network of primitive mangrove flora did the unthinkable. They learned to drink the poison and convert it into a heavy chemical vacuum cleaner. Today, our modern bodies are facing an internal environmental apocalypse. Microplastics in our blood, heavy industrial metals locking up our livers, and toxic chemical residues shutting down our kidneys. The solution isn't in a sterile medical lab. It was engineered in the mud of the Blackwater swamps. Today, we are opening the sealed excavation files of the midnight mangroves to uncover the 7 forbidden fluid locks of absolute internal purification. Let's breach the protocol. The collapse of your internal filtration grid always begins in the kidneys, where modern high-sodium processed foods and chemical preservatives form a microscopic crystal sludge. To force an immediate structural purge, we track the jagged tide lines of the swamp for the black mangrove bark, scientifically known as Avicennia, to survive a high salinity environment that would dehydrate any other living tissue. This evolutionary anomaly pulls up toxic groundwater and aggressively pumps pure salt and heavy mineral overloads out through its specialized leaf glands. When its active bark fluid enters the human system, it operates on the exact same physics. It travels straight to your kidney's filtration tubules, triggering a high-pressure osmotic flush. It dissolves the stagnant uric acid crystals and sweeps out the microcalcifications before they can lock up your renal tracts, resetting your fluid balance within 48 hours. Once the kidneys are flushed, the next battleground is the blood plasma itself. We are breathing in industrial dust and drinking water laced with invisible petroleum residues that create a state of permanent cellular oxidation. To break this synthetic matrix, ancient coastal tribes harvested wild sea holly, or Acanthus. Growing directly out of the pitch-black mangrove mud, this fierce, thorn-covered shrub synthesizes a unique density of phenolic compounds and lignins to defend its core against chemical decay. When you introduce this chemistry into your veins, it acts like a biological magnet. The molecular chains of wild sea holly bind directly to floating industrial chemical residues and microplastics trapped in your bloodstream, neutralizing their toxic electrical charge and escorting them out of your deep tissue networks. But what happens to the heavy metals that your body simply cannot break down? The lead, mercury, and arsenic that settle deep inside your liver tissues. To trigger a deep tissue extraction, we look to the muddy floor from Marsh Samphire. This leafless, segmented succulent thrives where the water is completely devoid of oxygen, forcing its cells to create a massive concentration of tongue-tungic acids and rare trace minerals. When consumed, Marsh Samphire acts like a metabolic vacuum cleaner inside the liver and spleen. It force-starts the liver's phase 2 detoxification pathways, aggressively clearing out the stagnant, toxic bile backup and purging the heavy metal load that clouds your thyroid function and freezes. As the timeline moves into the deeper vascular tracts, we encounter the moving Blackwater channels where the rare water Caltrop resin hides. Facing constant biological attacks from flesh-eating swamp fungi and aggressive parasites, this deep-water plant secretes a thick, alchemical shield rich in beta-sitosterol and unique tannins. Inside the human body, this resin targets the silent fire of modern arterial inflammation. It tracks down the systemic micro-swelling inside your vascular walls, the exact damage caused by industrial seed oils, and coats the tissue like a cooling liquid armor, lowering your systemic immune panic and allowing your cardiovascular grid to run at maximum oxygen capacity. Descending deeper into the humid, sulfur-choked air of the delta, ordinary respiratory systems fail due to thick toxic spores. Here stands the unique mangrove apple tree, or Sonneratia. Its roots grow vertically upwards, sticking out of the mud like long spears just to breathe oxygen from the heavy air. The fluid locked inside these breathing roots contains high-density oleanin triterpenoids. When introduced into the human respiratory tract, it downregulates internal lung inflammation with extreme speed. It dilates the alveolar tracts and aggressively liquefies the stubborn tar and modern industrial smog trapped deep within your lungs, forcing a total systemic respiratory clearance. Where the mangrove roots meet the crashing salt tides, the flora must maintain a completely impermeable barrier to prevent cellular drowning. For this defense, nature engineered the heavy bark of the red mangrove. This bark is completely saturated with specialized polymeric tannins that act as a biological waterproofing agent. The moment this fluid hits the human digestive lining, it initiates an immediate structural seal. It binds to compromised protein structures along a leaking gut wall, knitting the microtears together, and instantly stopping toxic waste from breaching your internal fortress and triggering autoimmune chaos. Finally, anchoring itself to the submerged limestone rocks of the Blackwater Bay is the resilient seagrass Zostera. Surviving under the crushing weight of high salinity currents, this plant synthesizes a massive density of organic iodine, zinc, and specialized sulfated polysaccharides. When this active chemistry hits the human system, it bypasses ordinary sluggish metabolic paths and travels straight to your cellular mitochondria. It acts like a high-octane spark plug, hyper-accelerating ADP production and cellular oxygenation, clearing away years of chronic mental burnout and giving your body a surge of pure, prehistoric endurance. The anomalies of the midnight mangroves did not ask for a clean, fertile soil to thrive. They chose the absolute mud, the toxic salt, and the black water, and they turned it into an unkillable architecture of survival. You can continue to trust the synthetic, watered-down illusions of modern industries that keep your filters clogged and your cells weak, or you can choose to introduce the weaponized biology of the Blackwater channels into your veins. The file is closed. The chemistry is real. Reclaim your frame. Smash that like button if you're ready to purge the grid. Drop a comment below. Is your blood running on modern industrial waste, or are you ready for the mangrove sweep? Subscribe to Ancient Vitality, and I'll see you in the next investigation.